Well, good morning, and it's Monday again. How on earth does it come around that quickly? I have absolutely no idea. I sound as if I'm talking nonsense and rubbish and patronizing, doesn't it? But somehow, when you get here on a Monday morning and you get everything ready and you think, oh, I'm ready to go, then you think, what the hell am I going to talk about? And so you start to talk rubbish to yourself. It really is nonsense. But I'll tell you what I've been doing. I like actually getting inspired by a bit of my favorite music. And if I've got time, I play Cockney Rebel, or at least the lead singer of Cockney Rebel, who is Steve Harley. And his Come Up and See Me is a classic, and it really turns me on. Come up and see me, make me smile. I do what I want in a while. Those aren't the exact words, but it gives you some idea of how he sings and the style. He died about, I'm going to say a year and a half ago. It's probably closer to 2 years now, because time does actually go by. And one hell of a funeral. He was widely admired in the music industry, and was one of those everlasting people who was able to not be just a flash in the pan. Well, there you are. Now you know what I do first thing in the morning. But actually, the reason that I was actually was almost caught on the hop, because there are little things that trigger bits and pieces in my mind. And I was actually looking at another couple of singers, and was reminded of a friend who was only a brief friend, moved on, but that Clodagh Rogers, who was a very famous singer in the 60s, and was from Northern Ireland, and according to the internet, is still alive. But she had a session singer called Polly, who was extremely kind to me when I was first in Northern Ireland. And in fact, I wish that I could have spent more time with her, because she was pleasant. And I wasn't not talking about anything romantic. I'm just talking about a very, very nice lady, a very nice lady. And you lost touch and you forget. So if there is anybody out there who is a fan of Clodagh Rogers, who knows who the session singer was that backed her, named Polly, please let me know, because I would love to know what happened to her, and where she is now, and if she's still singing. I actually am fascinated by session singers. Occasionally, a session singer goes on to become famous in their own right. But in looking at the Steve Harley presentation of Come Up and See Me, he has 3 session singers. I would describe the girls as attractive enough, but not hugely sexy, in the sense that they would rely upon their looks for anything. But by golly, they are exciting as a backing group. And I was watching them very briefly because I watch session singers. Is actually another set of session singers that really turn me on are those that back the star Bill Nighy in Love Actually, right at the very beginning when he's trying to torture the Christmas is Christmas is all around. Christmas is all around us. I think the original song is "Love Is All Around," and they turned it into "Christmas Is All Around." And they have some session singers in that, and they are fascinating as well. But the first thing I do is when I watch people, artists, stars, is go for the session singers, because there's some real talent amongst those session singers, some real talent, and it never gets them to actual stardom, and yet they appear with some of the greats. You try it sometime. Whenever you're watching a video with musicians singing, somebody famous, watch their session singers. You'd be surprised at how talented some of them are. Leonard Cohen always had very good session singers, and they again were fascinating people. The thing is that session singers tend to not travel around with the star. They tend to be, let's say, in London. So a star comes into London, and he goes and hires a group of session singers as his backing group. They rehearse with him and so on and so forth, and make it perfect. But they are excellent at doing that. So they are. We started off the day. I didn't know what I was going to talk about, but here is a group of session singers, and my love of session singers, and my regard for Cloda Rogers' session singer Polly, whose last name I cannot remember, and it's a long time ago. But if anybody happens to remember Polly or remember Cloda's session singers, please let me know. Let me know. Okay, what have we got on today? Well, we will have Philip will join us a little later. And Harry Atherton in Normandy is normally with us at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. And Harry is even older than I am, and that's old enough. And as you know, I fall down from time to time. Well, Harry took a tumble on the weekend and needs stitches. And so he's apologized that he can't make it this morning. But usual Harry is he is mortified and says any other day, as long as I get past the stitching up stage and I'm mobile. But of course, he always turns up on a Friday for our jamboree, and that jamboree is getting funnier and funnier and more fun and more fun, and you shouldn't miss it. That's Mirador Television's jamboree on a Friday, and it starts approximately somewhere around 9:45, and it involves Melissa Conte from New York. So there are 4 or 5 of us, and they after they've talked about serious things, And then they all gang up and they decide that they'll try and get me. So I have to be very swift on my feet and keep them at bay. And in so doing, it makes life interesting, to say the least. Very interesting. But today there will be no Harry, but Liza Page will be along at approximately 10:30, 11 o'clock. And Liza will be she'll be well, we call it the alternative view, and she's always controversial. So watch out for Liza, and that's this morning. Well, we'll see whether we've got anybody else floating around. Because you never know on this program who's going to turn up. We do have a format, believe it or not, but we don't stick very closely to it. Part of the fun of alternative television, small-scale television like this, is, and people have said to me, the reason that we really enjoy Mirador is because you never know what the hell's going to happen next. Well, we don't either. But the famous Goon Show was like that. Apparently, they would go into the studio with just a vague idea of what they were going to talk about, and then they would have floor managers. Those are the people that haul things around on the studio floor, who would smash cups or with light matches and set fire to toilet rolls and so on and so forth. And this would give the goons, because it was the Goon Show, Peter Sellers, Harry Seacombe, it would give the goons a new direction. They'd see these things and off they'd go. And we're a bit like that. We see things and off we go. I had no plans whatsoever to talk about session singers when we opened up this morning, but I was just once again so fascinated by them that I thought, what the heck? I mean, a lot of people, I suppose, wouldn't. They're so much into the background that you don't notice. But there are session musicians as well. People who go and play with the great never actually reach those heights themselves, and in some instances they don't want to. They are more than happy to be the backing to famous people. That is the height of their ambition, and don't knock it. But because I say that's the height of their ambition, don't assume that their ambition is limited. It's not. They like using their talent, and they like being session singers. And if they're good session singers, they are much sought after. Oh, there you go. Ooh. You didn't know that, did you? Well, yes, you did. You just didn't want to admit it. Okay. Let's take a look at the papers. Yes, the papers. Now, I'm not sure. We've got the weather. Yes. Oh. Now that's a surprise. That's a surprise, because today it's going to go up to 18 degrees. It's been quite cool. In fact, yesterday it was almost cold. And today it's going to go to 18 degrees, sunny intervals, and a gentle breeze. Tomorrow it's going to be 19 degrees, although we are going to see a fair amount of rain. Wednesday, 20 degrees, and Thursday, 21 degrees. Wow, how about Friday? No, Friday is going to be no increase. But all next week, it's going to be around 20, 21, 22. That's rather nice. That is rather nice. So, an improvement in the weather. An improvement in the weather even today. And we might have a little bit of rain. There is a 4% chance of rain in the next couple of hours. There are some puffy clouds around, and then it goes down to 0%. It's going to be dry for the rest of the day, absolutely dry. And at about 3 o'clock, even the clouds are going to disappear. We're going to have brilliant sunshine. Wow, terrifico, wonderful, and just a gentle breeze. Oh, my goodness me, if you're inclined to get a tan, if you like getting a tan, I think you could start today. Yes, I think you could start today. Well done. Well done, me. And here we go with the papers. And England's winning start and Labour's jobs pledge. Well, it's two unlikely things, actually. Believe me, we only call things on this program as we see them. We don't start out with any bias. But it doesn't matter which party it is. Any party that says, I'm going to create X number of jobs and so on and so forth, has actually got to do what Germany did in 1933 in the Weimar Republic, and that is go to war so you can build airplanes and so on and so forth, or undertake huge public works, which cost a lot of money, and Labour ain't going to have the money. So creating thousands of jobs is something that I would like to know exactly how they plan to do that. I'm perfectly prepared to give one side or the other, I don't care, a chance to govern properly. But why on earth do our politicians make promises that they know they can't keep and then will backpedal throughout their administration? Is it because we will not accept the truth that the UK is in a hard place and is going to have to change its attitude? You know, it's all very well to say, oh, we'll create all sorts of jobs, but at the moment, we are in a situation where people don't want to work. They don't want to go to work. And this business of working from home has created a whole new way of looking at jobs when you are in work. So that particular pledge leaves me cold. Anyway, let's see. Monday's papers mostly focus on the England's football result in the Euros and also the election campaign. The Daily Mirror reports that Labour is promising a jobs bonanza to boost all parts of the UK, especially areas decimated by the Tories. That's a quote. Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves says the 650,000 new roles for skilled workers will help to rebuild industrial heartlands. The commitment is included in the party's manifesto, which was launched earlier in the campaign. Then it goes on to talk about England's win last night against the Serbs. Incidentally, the headline in the Mirror is "Just the Job." Daily Mail. Its banner headline is, "It was a nerve jangler, but England finally gave us all something to cheer about." Yeah, well, England won, Serbia 0. I watched it and my heart was in my mouth for much of the match, I must confess. Has Labour let the cat out of the bag on tax? That is the headline that is non-sporting. England's win over Serbia makes the front page of most of the papers, with the Daily Mail calling it a nerve jangler, with a picture of fans celebrating. The paper also reports that Labour's manifesto is not the sum total of its spending plans, quoting Shadow Minister Wes Streeting. The paper says Mr. Streeting, the party's health spokesman, refused 4 times to rule out increasing or revaluing council tax. As he said, the manifesto was not a spending review or representative of the 5 years' worth of budgets. Well, there you go. The Guardian. New calls on Starmer to discard Tories' 2-child benefits limit. Several of the front pages feature pictures of Jude Bellingham after his 13th minute goal sealed a 1-0 victory for England over Serbia. The Guardian says that Keir Starmer is facing renewed pressures to scrap the 2-child benefits limit, as new research by the Institute for Fiscal Studies reveals that 250,000 more children will be hit by the policy over the next year alone. Well, I'm not quite sure what the 2-child benefit system is, because I am too old to have children who would have to benefit from that. So I can't help you with that much. So it's best that you actually tune into this station or some other station that is concentrating on news and find out what is going on. The FT, the Financial Times. Reeves pledges to turn down EU trade barriers in reset for relations. Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves will seek to break down EU trade barriers and secure billions of pounds through an early international investment program if a Labour government is elected. Rachel Reeves, says that she will secure billions of pounds through an early international investment summit if a Labour government is elected. Ms. Reeves signalled an ambitious push to revisit parts of Boris Johnson's Brexit deal, it adds. The Times. Go for the jugular, Sunak urged. Oh, it's getting pretty nasty. The paper says Rishi Sunak is being urged by cabinet ministers and senior Tories to go for the jugular and launch more direct personal attacks against Sir Keir Starmer. The paper quotes a cabinet minister as saying, Rishi is a really nice and deeply honourable guy. I'm not sure whether he is uncomfortable instinctively with the that he may be uncomfortable with personalised attacks. But it has been more generalised so far. In other words, he ain't doing, he's not having a go at Rishi the way that some members of his party think that he should. The Daily Express. Prime Minister, Labour will run riot with your money. The Daily Express says Rishi Sunak is warning voters okay. The Eye. Voters will allow 2 terms to fix broken public services, is the banner headline. But Labour accused of watering down housing reform pledges, says the Eye. The Eye reports that Labour has been criticised for rowing back on reforms to protect renters and boost home ownership. The paper says it has carried out analysis of the manifesto, which reveals that the detailed plans originally set out on its National Policy Forum document last year have since been watered down. The paper also has an interview with Ed Mayhill. Well, doesn't look as if he is giving up. The Eye, incidentally, has an interview with Ed Miliband. There's a voice from the name from the past who says, I get PTSD watching the election debates. What's PTSD? I don't know, but I don't think it's anything nice. Hey. The Daily Telegraph. Labour net zero plans 4.5 billion tax black hole. There's a big picture of Jude Bellingham on the front page. His arms spread out wide in supplication. Look, Mom, I did it. I scored at the Euros. Not only that, but I scored early on to give England a bit of an edge. The Telegraph reports on a claim by Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho that Labour's ban on new North Sea and oil gas will create a £4.5 billion black hole in the public finances that will still have to be filled by higher taxes. Writing for the paper, Miss Coutinho called the plans a spectacular act of economic self-harm that would leave the UK colder and poorer. Labour dismisses the claims as desperate nonsense and said its plans to meet to Labour dismissed the claims as desperate nonsense and said its plans to invest in renewable energy production would lower bills for households, the paper adds. Hey, by gum, they're really going to go to town, aren't they, Labour, when they get in? Without it costing us any more. It'll be interesting. I haven't answered. I can't answer the question of what those letters stand for. The Metro. Cops shoot Axeman armed with firebomb near the Euros fan zone. Gordon Ramsay's cycling nightmare. I'm battered and bruised, but still alive. The Metro leads with news that Gordon Ramsay has displayed a horrendous bruise from a cycling accident as he told fans that he was wearing a helmet which saved his life. Right. Okay. So let's go back to the Metro. Gordon Ramsay had a horrendous cycling accident, and he told fans that wearing a helmet saved his life. The paper also reports that a man armed with a small pickaxe and a Molotov cocktail was pepper sprayed by police before being shot near a Euros fan zone in Germany. Well, let's see what our Daily Star has to say. 1 million footy fans pull a sickie this morning after downing 30 million pints and 1 or 2 baby jams as England beat Serbia 1-0. And there's a picture of fans celebrating after the match. And it's got a great big sign saying "The Hangover." And the Daily Star reports on football fans pulling a sickie after England beat Serbia 1-0. Where are we now? 8:35. We've been looking at things for 35 minutes. Well, that's interesting. Let's take another long look, shall we? A slightly more detailed look at what's going on in the news. There's a picture of a triumphant Jude Bellingham celebrating his winning header for England on several front pages. The Daily Express nicknames him Head Boy Jude. The Daily Mirror plays on his shirt number, calling him Perfect 10. Puns inspired by the Beatles are well represented. Hey Jude, says the Daily Telegraph. Yes, Jude, says the Sun. While the Daily Star Yes, Jude, says the Sun. While the Daily Star goes for the slightly more imaginative, well, hey, Jude. The Daily Mail describes the match as a nerve jangler, but says the result gave us all something to cheer about. Coming off sport, go for the jugular is the headline in the Times. The paper says ministers have urged Rishi Sunak to get personal with his attacks against Sir Keir Starmer. One unnamed minister is quoted as saying, I don't think that there are any other options left. An ally of Mr. Sunak tells the paper that the Prime Minister did directly criticize the Labour leader during the first head-to-head TV debate. Separately, the Energy Secretary, Claire Coutinho, has attacked Labour's net zero plans. Writing in the Daily Telegraph, she said the party's policy of blocking new oil and gas exploration would take Britain back to the Dark Ages. She said the proposal would destroy jobs, raise taxes, and hike up your bills. Labour dismissed the claim as desperate nonsense. This he said, you said, we said, they said. It's all a bit much and a bit daft. The Eye says Labour has been accused of watering down its pledges on housing. The paper says the party has ditched specific targets on ownership and affordable homes. That featured in its National Policy Forum document last year. Labour sources tell the Eye that the policies were never officially presented to the public. Hang on, yes. The Financial Times leads on an interview with the Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves. It says she has pledged to tear down trade barriers with the EU if Labour wins the election. But she again stressed there will be no rejoining of the single market or the customs union. Well, I think that if she means that, at long last we got some sense out of their approach to Europe. Because as Harry Atherton points out, we in Britain are moving to the left, just at the time when the European Union, at least most of its members, are moving towards the right, which is going to make things very nervous to begin with. But if in fact what we are doing is we're playing up to, well, gosh, it's not so bad being in the European Union, it is we probably are going to upset a large number of its member countries because they have decided that left-wing policies have not worked. The Guardian says Rishi Sunak is not opposed to changing the law on assisted dying. It quotes the Prime Minister saying he's not against it in principle and that it is a question of having safeguards in place. The paper says Sir Keir Starmer supports changing the law and has set aside time for a vote on the issue should he win the election. Finally, the Star carries a warning about the afternoon and the aftermath of England's victory against Serbia. The hangover is the headline on the front page, which features an image of jubilant fans celebrating. The paper says 1 million people are expected to pull a sickie this morning after downing 30 million pints. Well, there you go. Those are the headlines and the front pages with politicians making promises that they probably can't keep. And then having convoluted yes minister type explanations when it doesn't work. I think that they work on the explanations before they actually work on the policies. And then they sound very, very wise and articulate because they head these things. But our debut into this competition is done. We've gone in, we've got on the pitch. And Serbia is a pretty fair side, actually. They played some very good football. Have in passing said that I visited Partizan Belgrade some years ago now. Two reasons. Number one, near to their ground is a complex in which they keep visiting VIPs. I mean, when I say VIPs, for instance, the judges for international tennis, which is played in Serbia regularly, international football, the referees, and it's rather a nice little complex. You get your own individual room, but also there's a lovely little restaurant there with what's best described as a butler, steward who looks after you. And he recommended to me while I was there Vernats as a wine to be drunk. Now, if you can get hold of Vernats, it's not that it's in short supply. It's that for some reason, the berry is only grown in Serbia and in Kosovo, and neither have seen fit to market it in any big way. And yet it is a delicious wine, a delicious wine. I would have it quite regularly with my lunch when I was working in Kosovo. Mind you, I had a very special little restaurant there, in which we tabbed the works canteen and had some very, very nice lunches. But also, when we had a works do, we would have it I believe that the restaurant is still going, although Elia, the lovely man who started it and ran it with his family, I believe, has passed on. But Vernats is, if you can get it, not because there is a shortage of it, but because it is not exported, not in any true measure, and it's a great pity that those sort of awareness things of what's happening in the rest of the world have not seeped through to some of these smaller countries that were under one authoritarian thumb or another. They tend not to adopt the more sophisticated side of things very quickly. So whatever. Why did I get onto this wine and Baronets? I have no idea. We don't plan these things, and we go off down a particular route. But I know, because Serbia was the team that we beat narrowly last evening, but who did a pretty damn good job of playing football. And I was saying that I've been to not to a match, but I've been into Belgrade's football ground, which is one of the better and finer grounds in Europe. Partizan Belgrade, I believe, is the team, and the reason that I was there actually is because I was checking on reports of a really very very fine radio television studio actually built into the stadium, built into Partizan Belgrade's stadium, and it was absolutely superb. It was dinky, and yet it had been designed to have various rooms interlocking, so they could be used separately or together. So you've got a neat little television operation, but you also could get the singular things, so you could have 2 or 3 different broadcasts going on at the same time. Beautifully built, so it was comfortable, it was modern, and all in all, very impressive. The Serbs are funny people. They have a tendency towards empathy with Russia. They can be brutal. They most certainly can be very what's the word? Not totally honest. Let's put it that way. Subject to I don't want to really use the word corruption, but I suppose yes, they can. They really deal very very harshly with their people who interfere with their political regime as well. They say to businesses, "Look, we'll help you all we can. Not only all we can, but we'll give you preferential treatment as long as you promise to stay out of politics." And I had one. I was looking at his television station, his media complex, to see how it might be improved. And there was a lot of resistance there too. It was not the easiest thing in the world, but the government warned him, "Do not go into politics, or we'll close down your television and we'll take away your bank and so on." He didn't listen. He formed his own political party. His ego was such that he thought he could overcome the obstacles that were pretty patent, pretty obvious, and pretty pointed out to him. And in the end, he had to leave the country. That's how vicious the Serbs can be to their own. Can you imagine what they will be like to those who are against them from the start? Kosovo still has problems, despite the fact that Kosovo has been declared a country in itself by the United Nations, operates as a country recognized in the UN. The Serbs still refuse to give up influence, and the border is a very tense area. Actually, on one occasion, when I decided, not decided, I had to go from Pristina, which is the capital of Kosovo, to Belgrade. I crossed the border, and no vehicles were allowed, and so I had to walk to the customs post on the far side, and was treated in a very hostile fashion, not at all comfortable. They didn't like anybody coming over because they didn't recognize Kosovo as a country. So there are several times that I've actually crossed a border, and the spot between my shoulder blades has ached, wondering whether in fact there's a gun pointed at it. That's one of them. Another is crossing the bridge in Mitrovica, the city of Mitrovica, which is partitioned between Serbian Kosovars and Albanian Kosovars. And when you walk across the bridge, there are what are known as bridge watchers, and they've got their eye on you and their guns pointed at you while they establish your identity, quite secretly. But it is a very, very unnerving experience. There are one or two other places that I've crossed the border that way. The one that amused me most was going into Albania from Montenegro, where you showed your passport and they still did the details on a typewriter. But there was a big sign which said, "If you are a member of the armed forces, please hand in your gun now." Dear, dear, dear. Dear, dear, dear. However, there are some funny border crossings that you go across. Some funny border crossings. Such is the world that we live in. Such is the world we live in. Okay. I am going to Toodle Pip now for 5 minutes, and then we'll be back taking us into the next phase, which, or the next program, which will see Philip Meredith come along for a chat before going to Liza Page with the alternative view, and anything else that happens to come along in the meantime. So let's say toodles, and be back in a minute or 2, 5 minutes. Say bye bye.